Hi, I'm Colby,
And I'm Daniel.
and today we want to talk about middle class in the UK versus the US. In the US, it feels like nearly everyone is middle class. It's this broad swath of people who aren't like in poverty and who aren't billionaires. They pretty much all identify as middle class. I think there was a survey by The Economist that most millionaires still identify as middle class. And so it's not really connected to just the middle income distribution unless you just do a huge distribution. So in the UK, middle class doesn't actually refer to the middle income earners. It actually refers to the middle class between the working class and the upper class. And so these were people who still had to work for a living, but work maybe in offices such as like doctors and lawyers, rather than the upper class, which had generational wealth and didn't need to work, or the working class, which are more traditionally laborers, and then as well as kind of at the top of the working class, like tradespeople, like electricians and such. So if you move to the UK, you may get confused because the term middle class can be used negatively to refer to something that is either just like maybe a bit too nice or a bit not nice enough. It can refer to someone who like thinks that they're like kind of too good for the working class, but it can also be referred to by the upper class as someone who's not good enough for the upper class.
Yeah, this is something that definitely confused me it confused me seeing it from the lower side.
Yeah.
I've never seen somebody, in America, a poor person would never say that somebody else was acting too middle class, because the middle class is aspirational in the US.
Yeah. The difference between these two terms comes from different philosophical and cultural backgrounds around it. So in the US, it's hugely influenced by Calvinist philosophy and the morality of work. And so if you work, that is moral, and if you don't work, that's slothful and lazy. And then you kind of get on to these kind of other layers that if you work and you get rewards, material goods, that's your morality coming to fruition. That's God blessing you. And so wealth that's generated by your own work is considered moral, whereas wealth that's not generated by your own work is considered like slothful and not something that is merited. And so it reinforces this meritocracy that's really, really strong in the US, as well as this individualism, which is also really strong in the US. And because of that philosophy of the morality of work, that's why so many people in the US identify as middle class. If you're on the lower end of the income spectrum, you still want to identify as middle class because you want to tap into that morality of work, that you're a moral person and you're just kind of down on your luck. If you identify as poor in the US, it's often viewed as your fault, that you were not moral enough, and that your material failings are a direct result of your moral failings. And similarly, on the rich side of the spectrum, people who identify as rich are kind of coded as lazy and they're not deserving of their wealth. Versus if they say that they're middle class, it's wealth that they made themselves and therefore it's their own and they shouldn't have to share it. And to build on that, it's wealth given by God. And so the idea of redistribution is often seen as quite awful because it's this idea that you're taking away this merit and morality from someone who deserves it to someone who doesn't deserve it.
In the UK, people sometimes refer to poor people as unfortunate, which literally just means unlucky.
Yeah.
And there's a sense that poor people are poor just because they're poor, and there's not necessarily a shame in it. Money is not seen as a sign of God's favor. It's just seen more as money. On the flip side, if you earn a lot of money, that's not enough to overcome your class. You can't earn your way into being sort of posh or upper class. Even if you have a lot of money, you can still be considered middle class, even if you're not working anymore.
Really, the best you can hope for is that like your grandchildren or their great-grandchildren, slowly after many generations, that you kind of climb up the class system. But it's a very slow process, and it's something that people view as much more stagnant. There's actually a poll by The Economist that showed that most people in the UK view class as much more stagnant than it actually is in the UK. And in the UK, social mobility is greater than in the US. But I think social mobility is still a bit different than class mobility, because in the UK it's much more cultural differences between these different groups.
Right. Sorry, to be clear, the study was talking about how much money people actually earn. It was not talking about what their status necessarily is, which I think would have been an interesting thing to add on to that. Because in the US, wealth equals class, there is a sense that social mobility is possible because if you just earn money, you can just become the upper class.
Yeah.
In the UK, where money does not equal social class, even though maybe there's more social mobility in terms of money, there still could actually be less in terms of class because you can't transcend these sort of barriers, these cultural barriers that are there, as well as monetary barriers.
The upper class in the UK also do not view work the same way that the upper class in the US view it as. The upper class in the UK, it's not necessary to work. There's this kind of ideal of like a cultured man or woman, like a great cultured person. And that is very aspirational. I think someone like Boris Johnson kind of embodies that. It's not that he's this great entrepreneur, it's that he's like studied classics and that he can quote Shakespeare and that he can also quote these other colloquialisms that are very British. But he just knows a lot of history and that he likes to write books in his time. Like being able to be this kind of great cultured thinker and stuff, that's really valued. Versus the aspirational character in the US is the entrepreneur.
Right.
Anyway, I think it's really interesting to analyze the different philosophical underpinnings of class, both in the US and UK. And I think it's interesting to kind of see how different political systems evolve based on those beliefs. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. So
Thanks for watching.
bye.